Hey folks, welcome back to Junko Jr. We got ourselves a project today. We've got an old cart here that came out of a warehouse. It was given to us by a friend. He was told to clean the warehouse out, and instead of scrapping these things, he gave us one of them. He's got a bunch of them and didn't know what to do with them, and I had no idea what I was going to do with it, but then the old gears started turning, if you know what I mean. So my kids are into showing pigs. We do that all across the state for those of you that don't know, and we need a scale to be able to weigh these pigs to keep track of their growth rate and food amount that we're giving them and all that. So we've got this scale kit here that we ordered, and it's got 4 of these load cells that we're going to put on a pad so that we can set it on here, because this is kind of going to be a mobile scale. It does have wheels. It's not going to be the best for rolling around through the yard, but we don't have to go a long ways, and as long as it's not raining and muddy, we're going to be fine. So this thing's really tall. We don't need it to be this tall. It's 5 foot back here. We're going to drop it down to 3 feet. We're going to cut all these off. Then we're going to get some extra bars and fill in the blanks here so that it's tighter gaps so the pigs won't try to go through. We're going to have to make the ends of these so that they swing out on each end so that the pig can come in and go out. And we've got these other pieces of scrap over here that we're going to get scrapped. And this panel right here is some kind of a ramp of some sort. I don't know what it was. We're going to cut the hinge off of the square tube that it's mounted on, and we're going to put those load cells on the 4 corners of that, so that'll be the actual scale pad. So I think it'll work out really good. There's only one way to find out, but you know, to actually go out and buy a scale, they're well over $1,000 for really nice ones. So we spent a few $100 on the load cells, excuse me, and that whole kit, and then I can weld the rest of this stuff and cut it, grind it, paint it, make it look decent. So we're gonna do the best we can. I think it'll work when it's done. It may not be the best thing, but it will work. I made it and we didn't spend a ton of money on it. So I think we're gonna be okay on this one. We'll see how it goes. Our next step is to get these old end panels cut down height wise and width wise. We got to take a few inches out of them width wise so that they fit inside here. Then we'll get our hinges and latch assemblies welded on there so that them little piggly wigglies can't escape on us. It'll be nice because they can come in one end and right out the other, because they're not very good at backing up, can't see where they're going. So it'll be a drive-through pig scale. We got quite a bit done. Sides are done, everything's all welded. We got our gates made for each end, so almost all the way. Got them narrowed down, got the height cut down as well, but I miscalculated. I don't have enough scrap tubing left over. We did really good at using all that stuff. I'm gonna have to go up to the hardware store in town. I think I'm just gonna get a piece of flat bar steel to go across here. That'd work just as well as anything. It doesn't need to be real thick. And then I'll have to get 2 more pieces of tube to go down through here to fill in the gap so it's not so big there. But it's pretty much the deal. It's looking really good. Then once we get the bottom of the gates welded up, then we can put on our hinges and the latch assemblies, and then we can start working on the scale. So we got our flat bar steel from the hardware store that we can weld on the bottom of these gates. So just gonna hold it on here, mark it, give us a little cut, then we can weld it on both feet. You're gonna have to trim these up a little bit to get them all exactly the same length so it fits on there nice and it's not crooked, because I was a little bit off when I cut them for some reason, but nothing a grinder can't fix. Get those welded on, then I'm gonna have to add another tube over here and another tube over here to tighten up that gap so that we don't have too big of a gap and the hogs can just run right through it. So let's get to it. There you have it. The actual device that's going to hold the scale is done. Ran out of big tube and didn't have enough that I could scrap together, so ended up just having to go with some smaller rod here. But we got our hinges welded on. I didn't feel like bolting them when we got a perfectly good welder sitting here, so let's just weld those things. Got our latch assembly welded on. Works real good on both ends, so we can check that off the list. Now it's time to actually build the scale pad, where we have to, the pad's already built because I have that scrap that I showed you earlier. I just have to get the load cells mounted on each corner of it and get that thing wired up and sitting in there, and it's time to give this thing a try out. Now that the cart is done for the scales, we've got to get the actual scale apparatus set up. So here's that old piece of yellow metal, some sort of ramp gate thing that I was telling you about before that we're going to use for the scale pad. So we've got it flipped upside down, and the instructions say we do have to weld these plates onto the four corners of it so that they can bolt the load cell to it. The bolts will go through here, and these are actually threaded, so not too big of a deal there. This was one thing that I did see on the reviews of the scale kit that somebody was complaining about, that they didn't have a welder, didn't know that they had to weld this on. So that could be a huge hiccup, but for us it's no big deal. We got the old miller on standby over there, gonna put that to use. So I'm gonna take this back outside, grind some of this yellow paint / powder coat stuff off here, probably guaranteed to cause cancer. But we'll get that off so we get some fresh clean metal so we can weld these on. I'm going to grind the edges of these plates too to get all that coating off there. So we're going to get a lot better weld. Not that it has to be a superior weld for what we're doing, but I don't like to weld through all these coatings. It's just nasty and nonsense. So we're going to paint it anyways when we're done. Get these all cleaned up and let's weld them on. One down, 3 to go. Definitely not perfect welds, not the most penetration for anybody that wants to critique it, but we don't have the biggest welder that we're working with over there, but it is definitely getting the job done. These things aren't gonna fall off, so we've got nothing to worry about. Let's get the other ones knocked out. So our scale is officially built. We got the load cells mounted on the bottom. Everything's wired up to a nice junction box that it comes with. That's actually a sealed box that it comes with. It's really impressive, a nice kit. A&A Scales did a great job on this one. Really nice attention to detail and quality in the kit. So now we've got to get this on our stand, or excuse me, the cart that we had already made. And it's time to load some pigs up and try this thing and see if it actually works. But it's getting late tonight. Kids are already in bed. So I'm gonna get the scale pad on here. Tomorrow if we get home from work, of course, you know, run out of daylight these days as we're headed into the fall and winter here. But we'll have it all ready to go, get us a pig in there and see if this thing works. Well, there you have it. We've got our pig on the scales, homemade. Didn't spend a lot of money on this project, just on the load cells. Everything else was built from scrap. It's working quite well so far. Thanks for watching Junkin' with Junior. We will see you next time.
Come on.